So I'm listening to Sean Hannity, and I don't listen to Hannity. Hannity's a clown. But I was listening to Tucker Carlson YouTube video where Tucker had to state 5 times that we support the Ukrainians trying to expel Putin. I guess he's on a short leash that says if you don't say that numerous times, you're going to be a Putin stooge. And it just came up on my YouTube feed after the Sean Hannity thing. And Sean Hannity's always bored me. He doesn't hold a candle to what Rush Limbaugh was. I've said that for years and years and years and years because Rush Limbaugh, it's kind of like a lot of the truthers out there with regard to Owen Benjamin. You got to be funny. The reason Owen Benjamin, Rush Limbaugh, others are so good, Adam Curry, because they're funny, they're humorous, as well as fired up as well. You got to have some. You got to be funny, man. And Sean Hannity's just not a funny guy. I don't listen to Mark Levin, who's a guy from San Francisco, Michael Savage. Look, if I want to get angry, I just listen to Slayer. That's all I need to do. Turn on some freaking 80s freaking speed metal, and I can get angry all day long. I don't like to be angry. I like to be interested in people's takes, but I also like to laugh. That's what makes these guys so good. Anyway, so Sean Hannity, his title of his videos, "My position on this has always been very clear." And his position is that, according to the Reagan doctrine, we got to help freedom fighters because that is a defense of America. And the whole point is get them over there before they get us over here. So that's the Reagan doctrine. And Reagan was fighting against the commies in Nicaragua, against in terms of funding the Contras, which, we could talk about that, but okay. And at the end of the day, I hate communism. The fact that the Russians were supplying Daniel Ortega in Nicaragua, the U.S. had an obligation to help without I got no qualm with that. And so that was a victory on behalf of the peace through strength thing, according to Sean Hannity. Maybe. Who's president right now in Nicaragua? Daniel Ortega. I mean, is it corrupt? Probably. I mean, my goodness, man. So Ortega won an election. Are we supposed to now go in there and freaking throw firearms and stuff? Say, well, you can't. What are we supposed to do now? Ortega's in office. Same thing with freaking Chavez in Venezuela. He won a fair and clean election that Jimmy Carter sanctioned. And look what became of it. What are we supposed to do now, Sean Hannity? So the idea that peace through strength or the Reagan doctrine worked, well, it didn't so much. We had Venezuela, Daniel Ortega. We had socialists in Bolivia. We had, this isn't backed explicitly by Russian commies, but there is some communist influence in here too. Evo Morales. We got the Brazilians. What's her name? I'm drawing a blank. The chick's name. Looks like she might win again. You know what I'm saying? And there's another guy. I'm just drawing a blank to their names. One guy went to jail. And it looks, who's a chick who, anyway, we'll see. If Bolsonaro can be reelected, I don't know. But what are you supposed to do, man? You're supposed to say, well, we're going to go in there and defeat the propaganda machine that's corrupting the elections, i.e. stealing them. All right, then remember in Honduras, everyone's up in arms because a supposed right-wing coup took over from the Marxists, the Ortegas, the Sandinista types in Honduras, and America was up in arms about that, but they didn't care anything about Ortega. They didn't care anything about Venezuela. It's just their left. That's a fact. But then he talked about Mujahideen that we funded in Iraq and Afghanistan, and Hannity was using that as a success. Was it Hannity? Literally, was that a success because of our Stinger missiles? That's what kept Russians from taking over Afghanistan? Because then what happened with us? It's crazy. It's crazy. People are freaking idiots, man. So because we funded the Mujahideen in Afghanistan and the Russians couldn't win in Afghanistan, that showed that it was us funding the freedom fighters in Afghanistan that won for Afghanistan against Russia. And yet those same freedom fighters morphed into the Taliban, which we had to take out because of 9/11. Seems awful weird to me. And then we couldn't beat either. So we won, except we attacked Afghanistan because what we won allowed Osama bin Laden to plot his terrorist attack activities against the United States. The whole thing is insane. I'm listening to Sean Hannity. I said, I can't believe it. Well, I can because he's not a bright guy. But then we got part two of this. He said Donald J. Trump, because of the weakness of the Obama administration, allowed ISIS to take over significant parts of the Middle East. And Donald J. Trump says we're not going to have that. We're going to go in there and take heads. And that seemed to have worked 100%. Maybe it's because of Madman. Everyone says Trump's a madman, and he was able to exploit that with all. He said, "Look, if you keep going, I'm going to go crazy on you. Go crazy on you. Go crazy on you." But Hannity, you freaking idiot, push it back a few years. Why did ISIS run rampant? How can he not? Because of what we did in Libya. We backed the freedom fighters, quote unquote, in Libya. Hillary Clinton said we saw he's dead. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Why did ISIS rise to begin with? Because of American presence of Libya and trying to get rid of, what's the name, Assad in Syria. Never mind Iraq. I just, oh my goodness. That Hannity, I just, selective reasoning. It's so, if there was no ISIS warlords running around in Libya under Gaddafi, running around in Syria under Assad, is that his name, Assad? The guy under Iraq. Now there is, because now you can say it's still, we traded bad for, whatever. You can say it was still worth. I'm not even arguing that. I'm just saying the reason these guys existed is because of our actions. Our actions have counteractions as well, Hannity. The Mujahideen, they beat the Russians, and then 20 years later, we're there. Oh, we fought against, we destroyed Gaddafi, Hussein. We're trying to get rid of a Syrian dictator, and then all of a sudden ISIS arises. This is economics. What's it called? The term is unintended consequence. That's what's called, unintended consequences. So now we're going to go into Ukraine. He doesn't want us to go into Ukraine, Hannity. He says, no, I don't want soldiers there. I just want to fund these guys. It'll work just like it did in Reagan. The whole thing is insane. Anyway, I just had to get this on my chest. See ya.